Hello! Today I mean to dedicate this video to non-diabetics. We all know them, we all love them very much. And sometimes they say things that kind of get on our nerves. But I decided who should blame them, honestly. So I'm going to appeal to all diabetics out there. Just try and stay calm and friendly. Even if non-diabetics say things that might be slightly annoying. Even if you've heard it like 100 times before. Okay. Okay? So, one thing non-diabetics often ask is, does that hurt? They normally ask this whilst you are poking your body with a sharp object. A lancet, or your pen, or maybe your pump site. And I think some diabetics get a bit furious at this because they think, of course it hurts! It's sharp objects going to my skin! But actually, I think it's more of a concern that's being expressed in that kind of situation. And I think that non-diabetics are pretty intrigued by people sitting next to them poking needles into their tummy. That's understandable. And on the other hand, I have heard diabetics answer this question very differently. Some people say, you know, I do it every day anyway, so I don't really feel it anymore. I'm really tough. And some people say it hurts them because it's a needle. Needles generally hurt, I guess. I think it varies, actually. I mean, poking my finger does sometimes hurt, sometimes it doesn't, and to be honest, I really don't care because I do it often enough, and it's not really a traumatic experience having to measure my blood sugar. Whereas I think injecting does sometimes hurt pretty badly. It hurts me pretty badly sometimes because I just haven't got so much fat. So I'm really thin, and sometimes it's not very nice. It's nice when I'm at home I can like shout at my pen and get really cross with it, but I can't really do that in public, so sometimes you'll see me sitting there like and sometimes I don't feel a thing, so there. I think it's fine to ask that question. Another thing non-diabetics frequently ask is, how often do you have to measure? So I'll be measuring and they'll say more like, how often do you have to do that? And I sort of start to ramble on, and I don't think they're any wiser afterwards, actually. It would probably be best if I just said 4 times a day or something, but you know, it depends how much do I eat, and am I low, and have I forgotten to measure? Don't tell this to anybody. Yeah, but that's an understandable question as well, I think. One misconception that non-diabetics seem to have is that if your sugar gets too high, they think you'll be hyperactive and be, you know, hopping around the place because you've got so much sugar! No, it doesn't make any sense. Because, you know, that's the problem. The sugar's in the bloodstream. It's not in the cells. It's not being used. It's just being trouble. But there we are. Who can ask non-diabetics to fathom the complex biological processes going on in a diabetic body? One thing someone from my course likes to say is, oh, I love the smell of insulin. I love your pen. It looks so nice. And, you know, that's the kind of person I just think, oh, you really deserve a hug for that. I was actually passing around my pen to people because they were intrigued and they wanted to smell it. And I was like, here, but don't poke out your eye, please. Often I find that non-diabetics show a general interest in me being diabetic, and I usually don't mind as long as they ask me questions at a suitable time. Often it happens when I'm just poking myself, or I'm just about to bite into my sandwich or something, and I was thinking, I'd love to explain everything. I'll explain everything to you, but I've got a sandwich. Oh dear, what do I do? Yeah, but I think it's nice if people ask questions. That's better than if people go assuming things, by far. But I can imagine that if you've had diabetes for a long time, it gets a bit tiring having to answer the same questions over and over again. I wonder, do people get a sort of explaining diabetes mode that just switches on and then they're like, yes, there are so and so many diabetics in the world, type 1 is very rare, and insulin helps lower your blood sugar. If you eat sugar, your blood sugar rises. You have to count carbs. You have to inject. I can eat everything. Was that your question answered somewhere in there? I wonder whether I do that. I don't know. One thing that often happens to me, probably not just to me, is that people ask me about my diet or assume things like they say, oh, that must be harsh for you because you have to watch your diet as well because of your diabetes. And I think the problem with this is that to a certain extent they're right, because at the beginning I didn't inject. I was taking tablets and I could only eat 5 units of carbs at a time. So then I did actually have to watch my diet. And before that, it was insane because my stupid doctor, who I've not been going to lately anymore, instead of sending me to a diabetologist, put me on a 10-day diet, sort of a low-carb diet. And I was sitting in school, sort of like, oh no, I don't know what to eat, what could I eat, I can't eat any bread. And someone would be like, do you want a carrot? So I think people have that in mind when they talk to me because they realised that there was a time where I had to watch what I'm eating. And I think it's difficult for people to switch and realise that now I've got insulin, I don't anymore, and it's very nice. And another thing is that I've got a food intolerance, so I'll be standing in front of things saying, oh, I can't eat that, I can't eat this, and people generally assume it's because of my diabetes and not because of my food intolerance. Sometimes I just say like, I can't eat that, I can't eat this because of the food intolerance, it's nothing to do with diabetes. So maybe that will help in the long run. Okay, and apart from that, people generally probably know lots of type 2 diabetics, anyway, more than they do know type 1s or MODY like me, so they'd have heard of people having to not eat any more cake, and eat sugar-free snacks, and take a lot of exercise. So that's probably where it comes from. Be patient. I've also discovered that some people are very supportive and show very nice reactions if they know you're diabetic, so that's really kind. Cringe the wrong way. For instance, I used to have trouble eating pizza. I was kind of scared of pizza. I tried it once and it didn't really work out very well, and I read all these stories about I ate pizza and had to go to hospital because my sugar was over 600, and then my family decided to do a pizza order for tea, and I was talking to my brother saying I'm kind of a bit worried about eating pizza, but I'd kind of like to try it as well, and I'm sure that I can eat pizza if I get it right with injecting properly at the proper time and enough units and everything. And he said, if you want, we can both order pasta. I'll order pasta too, so you don't feel out of place. I thought that was really, really nice. I did order pizza anyway, but I thought it was very nice of him. And another cute reaction I had was from this little boy who watched me measure. He was just sitting there staring at me, and he looked very touched, sort of, and then he came over to me, took my finger and kissed it, sort of like, all good. That was really sweet. That was very touching. To sum it all up, I think non-diabetics can be very nice, and talking to them sometimes requires a bit of patience, but I think it really helps if you just switch the perspective for a moment and try to understand, why is this person asking this question? Because it's not altogether stupid, even if it is annoying. Okay, that was all I meant to say. Bye bye!